All right, man. What it is, what it do. I've been ready since '81. I was born in '82. That's an old. I was born in '87. That's all good, man. Keep shooting podcast. This is going to be the most anticipated podcast. What's more anticipated, this podcast, episode 19, or the J. Cole album? B.
This one.
This episode, this podcast for sure. I wonder how. I'll be anxious to look at the number of streams for the Keep Shooting podcast as compared to Cole's newest album. I'm sure it will be comparable. So I apologize for taking away some Cole shine ahead of time. But man, we're here. We're here. So this morning, woke up. So I woke up at 4:15 this morning to hit the weights, obviously, because I'm a man. Hit the weights 4:15, and then I had supposed to have a workout at 6 a.m. with none other than Jeff Lewis, and some of you know him as @Jumpin' Jeff. Some of you know him as Put Some Shoes On when you're rebounding for Mike. So I'm driving over to the gym, and then I get a text at 6:05 that says, "Hey, man, I overslept, not going to make it." So this is my way of publicly shaming Jeff for not making the workout for the 6 a.m. workout. So way to go, Jeff. Appreciate you. It's out there for the world to hear that you didn't make it. But we're now even in regard to that. I had a workout right after scheduled for that in the city. So at one of the big five schools, not going to say necessarily what school it was, but was working with a kid there and had a really good solid morning there. It's so interesting working with different people and then higher level guys, how quickly, so like I talked about in the last episode, but how quickly they can start to adapt to things. And this one particular player has one thing that's kind of funky in his shot, and he's starting to really grasp what it means to not do that. But then at the same time, now we're trying to add more to it. And it's like, do we just focus on this one thing, or do we continue to try to add to it? But really cool morning. That was our second time working together, or third time, I think. Third time. And cool to see the progress. And then I have to schedule these super early because then I have to run home and I have to log on to for the 9 to 5, baby. I'm a working man. I'm a corporate guy. And now we're filming this at lunchtime. So there you have it. I used to think I was busy, man. I really did. Like 2 years ago, if you would have came to me, like, you consider yourself busy? And I'd probably say yes. I think I'm busy. I was wrong. It's gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't believe I ever thought I was busy. I can't believe I ever thought that I didn't have time to do things. And but it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. Also, I'll dive into a little bit more of that, kind of the curse that comes along with that sometimes, but I'll get into that a bit later. It's funny. I was talking to the kid I was working with today. One of the coaches that used to coach at the school that he's at, big time coach, came to see me in high school, came to see me play. So he came to see me at an AAU tournament and one of the big five schools, and he came to see me play. And I remember my AAU coach was telling me, Mike, so-and-so's coming to see you play. So, you get that ball, put it up there, all that good stuff, get that shot off as much as you can. And I think I had a solid game, right? Like I think I probably, I don't know, probably had like 16, 18, something like that, but hit threes. And after the game, I was talking to my AAU coach. He's like, I talked to the coach who came to see you. And I said, yeah, what did he say? And I'll never forget it. He was just like, he said, you're way too slow, man. He said you could never play at that level being as slow as you are. So I always remember that. And but granted, at the time, I didn't lift weights. I never did any type of like real enhancement off the floor. All I did was shoot. That's it. That's all I ever wanted to do. So when people were like, hey, you want to lift weights? No, man, not for me. Hey, man, you want to do this agility work? Nah, man, I'm just going to shoot. That's all I need. And looking back on it, it probably would have been to my benefit, right? I had a few, D1 schools, Ivy League schools that would reach out. One, my grades weren't good enough. Two, like I said, I didn't really work on my body enough to be able to play at that level. I do remember I thought for sure I was going to the University of Delaware. And I was sold, man. I remember my dad and I went to a game, and we're at the Bob Carpenter Center, and I'm picturing myself playing at UD, and I'm like, man, this is going to be great. It's not that far from home, Division I school. This is going to be really, really cool. and we had some type of state playoff game. And I remember the assistant coach came, and then I never heard from them again. And I was devastated, man. I was devastated, and I faintly remember him saying something along the lines of I wasn't strong enough, and so it wasn't fast enough, wasn't strong enough, and they were both probably right. Although I think that if I would have gotten in at that level, I would have then been exposed to having to do it, and then that would have complemented my ability to shoot the basketball, and then who knows, right? I mean, I still ended up in an awesome position at Philadelphia University, Division II school, and then got to start all 4 years, right? So it's still all worked out. After I committed to Philly U, man, I'm rambling. I didn't even intend to talk about any of this. After I committed to Philly U, I got a call from Penn State, and Penn State offered me a preferred walk-on spot. And so I thought about it. I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool. I just committed to Philly U. What are the chances of me playing at Penn State? But at the same time, you have like that competitive drive of, yeah, but why not? Like, why can't I go there? And why can't I work on my body and do all that I mean, you go to a Big Ten school, you're going to have access to the best strength and conditioning trainers, the best facilities. But I had already committed to Philly U, so rolled with that. But yeah, man, fun fact there. So, kind of like how I started in terms of you don't realize how busy you are sometimes, or I didn't think I was busy until like I'm starting to do the things that I'm doing now. And it can be a gift and a curse in a way that, and I know a lot of times I'll come on here and I'll talk about like really uplifting things, but you get to a point sometimes where you're doing so much that if that slows down even a little bit, and I don't know if everybody's like this, but I know I'm like this, but if it starts to slow down, even just a little bit, my mind goes crazy about it. So I can have days, I can have weeks where I literally don't, I mean, it's from sun up to sundown. I have something going on, whether that's a training, whether that's a call, whether that's my subscription, whether that's my job, whether that's whatever, man, like you name it. And then like I can get hit with like 2 days where I don't have a lot going on, and I get so anxious about it. Like I start to think like, and this is probably an awful thing to think, but I start like, am I falling off? Am I now going to go to slowing down? Is all of this stopping? And I have this feeling all of the time where I start to do that, and I drive myself nuts with it. And I know my wife can tell. I know she can look at me and she's like, she can tell something's up with it. But I go through, some of these lulls where I'm just like, man, what's happening? Why aren't things moving the way I'm so used to things moving quickly now, and now things have slowed down. How do I adjust to that? And it's just a crazy thing, because I've done it before where like I'll do a big clinic. So let's say I do like a 2-day clinic somewhere, and maybe I see 150 kids. I'll get home from that clinic and like settle into this mode of, man, I don't have anything going on. And I just did a clinic with 150 kids. But because I don't have something lined up immediately after, I start to get in this mode of I don't know if it's like self-sabotage, but it's like, man, it's a weird thing. But I say all of it because there was a quote from one of the books I was listening to, and I actually put it on my Instagram story. And the quote was that thought crystallizes into habit. And it's really interesting to me because I believe that. I believe, what we truly think about ourselves and what we're trying to do is what we become. I believe in that. But I think that it can actually reverse the opposite way for us sometimes when we've already developed the habit, right? So the habit's ingrained. And now this is my example of this. So I've been waking up early since 2013, I believe, right? So right around 2014, I'm waking up super, super early. So that'd be any time between the hours of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'm going to wake up, okay? And it becomes a part of what you do. It becomes your habit. Like my whole thing was, the mindset was I have to get up and I have to get my stuff done early because I have my job to get to. But I need to attack the day. And when I go into these modes of, damn, am I doing enough? Or are things slowing down? It's that it's my habits that will bring me out of it. So what I mean by that is, by me still being in that habit of maybe mentally I'm not 100% there in terms of like, man, like I'm really, really ready to go. The habit of me waking up 4:00 in the morning brings me to that state, if that makes sense. So I'll get to the gym and all of the pity party I gave myself the day before, I wake up the next morning, I have to get up. I'm just doing it just because it's what I do. And then I'll be in the gym and it will like hit me like, why were you what were you complaining about? You know what I mean? What were you doing? And to me, it's just so interesting that it takes a certain thought pattern to get you to the point of doing things a certain way every day, settling into your schedule and all that kind of stuff. But once you start to get it, it can be just so valuable because it can get you out of these little ruts as well, right? Like we're all human, right? We all have these moments where we feel really, really, kind of like we're all gung ho about what we're doing, and then there's other moments where we don't, right? And that's part of it. That's part of it. But it's how fast can you recognize it that, I'm giving myself that negative feedback loop, and how do I get out of it? And I think that our habits are one of the things that can really help with that stuff, man. So, I know I'll try to come across as positive as possible, and I am a pretty positive person, but I think we all have those laws. No matter how hard we work or how ambitious our goals are, there's certain things that are going to happen that kind of make us take a step back. We start evaluating, overthinking. It all goes back to like that 7-day mental diet, right? Like, can you realize when you're giving yourself those negative thoughts and acknowledge they're there, and then move past them in a way that, come back to whatever your vision is, whatever that goal is at the end of the day, that's going to allow you to keep pushing on forward, man. So, just thought I'd share that because that's what I feel like has been going on in my head for the past 2 or 3 days. And yeah, man, it's interesting too, because it's one thing when you're working for somebody. It's another thing when you start doing things on your own, because when you're working for somebody, you can kind of like, if you go through that feeling, you can kind of just chill for a bit, because it's not really your problem in terms of like the money coming in or the things being set up, right? Like the company is already set up in a way that's going to happen for you. When you're doing your own thing, that's when it's different. Like everything's on your shoulders, right? And especially when you're like a one man thing, you're in charge of the scheduling, you're in charge of the payment, you're in charge of all of that stuff. So it's just you're kind of playing a different game. But habits, man, can't stress them enough. Cool. Got that out of the way. Feel good about getting out of the way. This is my therapy. I don't talk to many people, so this is like my thing now. This is what I'm going to do. I wanted to try a different thing, or something that I haven't done, and figured that maybe even with this, we can turn this into some type of segment moving forward, where if you wanted something broken down, some type of clip, whatever that you're seeing, whether that be at the NBA level, college level, WNBA level, whatever, you could send it in, and then we could talk about it. So the first clip that I wanted to bring up is a clip of Steph Curry. Now, I actually posted this clip with another video of a guy shooting a crazy one-hand shot at the free throw line the other night, and Steph was coming across half court, and he kind of seeks out a jump shot. So in this clip, Steph comes across half court, and what I want you to pay attention to is when Steph comes across half court, what he's doing with his dribble. And I try to make this as clear as possible to everybody that I work with when we start to do things off the dribble. Your dribble is a part of your shot. You need to start thinking about the way that you're moving and the way that you're dribbling the basketball as setting you up for success shooting the basketball. And if you watch Steph will play around with the ball away from his body, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's next level guy. He could get into a shot a variety of different ways, because what he's able to do is it's different. It's different than what everybody else is able to do, right? But if you watch him when he actually crosses that half court line, I believe the ball's in his left hand the majority of the time, and each dribble is directly by his side each time. So the phrase or the cue that I'll give to players is attach the elbow to the hip. And what that's going to do is each time you dribble the ball, you know exactly where that ball is coming back to you. And when a guy like Steph is in a zone, and I can say this because as a shooter, we know this zone. Like we know that there reaches a certain point as a shooter where, hey man, if you give me the slightest inch of room, this ball's going in. Period. Right? And everybody that has ever shot the ball at a high level knows that feeling. And it's an amazing, amazing feeling. What's incredible about Steph is he maintains these certain habits or these tendencies within the game that even when he's feeling that, like you can still see him seeking it out and he's still maintaining these amazing habits. So when he crosses half court, each dribble that he takes with his left hand is directly next to his body, which in a sense is now preparing him to be able to get into that shot as soon as the opportunity presents itself. Steph's a little bit different from a lot of us in that as soon as Steph crosses half court, he's in range to do what he wants to do. And you can see it when he crosses, his intent changes. The dribbles become more choppy, more, they're closer together. And then it's not as free flowing. And he's just searching, man. He's just searching. And when you can watch that, and then you can start to really think about, every dribble that he's taking right now has a purpose. There's no excuse as to why you shouldn't start doing the same. I can't tell you how many players sabotage their own shots by not understanding that the ball is to move with us and not apart from us. And I know at a young age, we're kind of taught, hey, man, throw that ball out in front of you and then go get it. Your body can only cover so much space. And the more we throw something out, the more we're going to have to try to catch up to go get it. And then we ended up having to grab the ball. We're usually off balance, all that kind of stuff, right? If you start to think about that ball being an attachment of you and how you move, you're going to set yourself up for being able to shoot the ball that much better. So think about it this way, right? So think about this. How often, and I see it every day that I work with players, they will get a bad pass. And when they get a bad pass, they immediately start blaming the passer for the bad pass, right? Because usually a bad pass leads to a not so good shot, right? It's just the way it is. We're there, we're prepared, we're ready to go, and then a pass comes that's way outside somewhere. We got to catch it. Now we got to bring it back down and go into our shot. And we're like, hey man, if you would have just given me a good pass, that would have set me up to make that shot a lot easier, right? You need to start thinking about how you dribble the basketball the same way. You dribbling that ball so far outside of your body and moving in a way that ball is not attached for you is the same as you getting a bad pass, except you're giving the bad pass to yourself, right? So if you want to make life on yourself easier, dribble that ball closer to your body. Move with that ball closer to your body. Chest up, chin up, eyes up. Shout out Rob Fodor. It's the most simple but sophisticated thing in terms of movement that you can find. You watch some of the best players in the world. Yes, there are moments that players are going to have to really dip that shoulder to get by somebody, but the majority of the game is played up here. The best players still play up here. I think LaMelo Ball is an amazing example of it. That kid looks like he's just upright almost the entire game, but gets wherever he wants to get on the floor, right? So a lot of the game is played that way. Learn to move that way. Learn to handle the ball that way. And now you're setting yourself up as a shooter to be much, much more successful off the dribble. So that was the first clip I wanted to show. I just think it's an awesome clip. I know the shot's insane. And I mean, he's Steph, right? But if you watch his preparation before, I truly believe the minute or the second he crossed half court, his intention was, I'm shooting this basketball. And you can tell by how he's dribbling that basketball. So that's the first clip I wanted to show. The second clip is one that I actually posted on my Instagram, and I wanted to dive into it a little bit more. But I came across a video of Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, two players for the Miami Heat, right? Two guys that come off the bench, two really solid players. And it's a really interesting clip because they're shooting catch and shoot threes out of the corner, and then your standard catch and shoot three. But they immediately, if you watch people shoot the basketball, you would immediately see that they're not shooting the ball the same, yet they are. And what I mean by that is it's like that old conversation always comes back to what's better, a high release or a low release, right? Or we tell kids at a young age, you got to get your release up. And then we say, well, why do I get my release up? Well, because you don't want to get blocked. Not true, man. We only want to get that release a little bit higher so that our hands can get underneath the basketball. We're putting ourselves in a position of leverage. That's neither here nor there, though. It's not why I brought this up. Gabe Vincent releases the ball lower than Max does. Now, we all have different body types, so we're gonna move the ball differently in terms of how we create leverage. But the way that Gabe Vincent creates his power here is because he has a lower release point, his legs are going to attach the shot earlier. So if you think about this, because the release is lower, the legs kind of don't have to be as disciplined as in regard to when they attach the shot. We don't shoot with our legs, right? The legs serve as an addition to the energy created with our upper body. And you can see this clearly with both of these guys because you can see the flow in their shot and how that ball doesn't stop moving, all right? So with Gabe, shoots lower, also a little smaller. I believe he's 6'2". I believe Max is like 6'5", right? But Gabe's smaller than Max, lower release, legs attach earlier, all right? Watch Max shoot, higher release, legs attached later. Now, you look at that and you'll say, oh, those are two different shots. But in reality, they're kind of the same shot just being released at different times, right? So it's important to understand that, especially as a coach, as a trainer, even as a player, you may have different looking shots within your repertoire. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're different shots. They're just being released at different points in time. There's no reason that if Gabe Vincent wanted to, he could probably move that ball up a little bit higher. He would just have to be a little bit more disciplined with his lower half before that attaches. But he could find that same flow. He's still moving the ball in relatively the same path as Max is. It's granted it's a little bit different. Gabe moves a little bit tighter. Max still has that small little loop. But it's really interesting to see. I'll have a lot of people that'll come to me and they'll say, well, Mike, when I shoot a mid-range shot, that ball, it stops a little bit, and now it's a two-motion shot. And I think I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with that because I don't see a one versus two-motion shot as the ball stopping. I see it as, is the ball changing directions? Are we going to shoot some shots from mid-range in terms of some type of pull-up or even like a fadeaway where that ball is going to stop at our two position a bit? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But it's kind of along these same lines. If you watch these clips, they're different shots, but yet they're kind of the same. They're just being released at different points, right? The idea is still the same. Ball still moves before body, and the leg still attached to the shot. So just a really cool example to me of two guys that shoot the ball different, quote unquote different, yet the principle behind everything that's happening is still very much the same. And as a coach and as a trainer, we have to be able to understand that. Like we're not going to teach a 6'10" guy to shoot the same way that we're going to teach a 5'9" guy to shoot. You know what I mean? The levers are different. How they're going to produce power is going to be different. How that ball moves from the 1 to the 2 is going to be different, right? So if we don't recognize that, we're going to be trying, what is it? Fitting a square or a round peg into a square hole or something like that, or a square peg, whatever, doesn't matter. But that's what I mean. Like you can't just have one idea or ideal of this is how it exactly has to be, because it's not going to work from player to player. And that's what makes everything so unique. I was talking to one of my subscribers, my man Justin, and he was saying how, he's been teaching a lot more. And the most interesting thing to him is that to him, every player is a new puzzle, right? Each player that he comes across, it's like, well, I got to figure this one out. I got to figure out how to communicate to this person, or I got to figure out what works for them in terms of leverage, or to get them to understand the language. So, it's one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it is to see and the easier it is to implement. But, it's almost kind of daunting to think about from a sense of you're never going to have it figured out completely. And it's always going to be kind of this game of let me make sure I have enough base knowledge of what I'm doing that I'm able to communicate this in a bunch of different ways. And I've said that all the time, right? Everything comes back down to that. So yeah, man, if you have any videos of that or something that you want looked at, please send it in, and I would absolutely love to take a look, and then we could break it down here, and then we'll give you a shout out and do all that cool stuff, man. We'll do all that cool stuff. So, lastly, I've been writing a book, And maybe that contributes to my mental state too, because writing a book, it's hard, man. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. I shot it's going to be an ebook, and we shot all the video / pictures for it when I was in Utah a few weeks ago. So now it's on me to write it, and I've been writing it. And you kind of get writer's block at times, and you want things to be perfect, but it's not necessarily going to be perfect. The cool thing about it is that it really starts to push, or maybe not push. Maybe push isn't the right word. It reaffirms what I'm doing, right? So starting to write this, I kind of can like look back and be like, I can't believe I'm even writing this, because 6 years ago I would have never thought about this stuff. And while I'm writing it, I'm so excited about it, because I didn't have resources like this as a kid. I know there's shooting books out there, but there's not a ton. There's not a ton of stuff on shooting the basketball. And you take into account my love for books, and now that I'm writing one, I don't know, man. It's a really cool feeling to be doing it, yet it's very difficult. But knowing that, eventually somebody's going to pick this up, and maybe it could change their trajectory from I'm an okay shooter to maybe becoming one of the world's greatest, is a really, really cool thing to me. But without actually putting it out there in the universe, that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So I'm finishing that up. I'm super, super excited to bring that to you guys. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I think that's all we're gonna hit. I was gonna touch on something else. I had posted something about things not being the same today, like nothing would be done the same today as it's being done 10 years from now or something. And I got some interesting feedback on it, because some people looked at it and were like, that's not true. This is still being. And so some people took it really literally. I just wanted to say real quick, if you truly want to be great at something, I don't think you can just rest on your laurels in terms of what is, right? You have to be able to see what isn't yet at this point. And that's where things change, right? And it rests on those individuals to see what is not yet seen, and then bring it to the physical world, right? And it's like that. There's just the example I always think of. Somebody dreamed of Google, right? Google did not exist. Somebody dreamed of Google. Eventually, Google came to be after probably an incredibly arduous process of bringing that about. But now Google's as a part of all of our lives as anything else that we do, right? But that at one point was just somebody seeing it, right? They probably said to somebody, man, there's going to be some search engine that's going to change the world, right? And somebody was like, no, no, bro, that's not gonna happen. But it does happen, and it's going to continue to happen. So if you're a teacher, whatever you're doing, you don't just teach for the moment of everything that's happening now. Teach for what you want the game to look like later on down the line. And I think I think that's not going to benefit just you. That's going to benefit the people that you're reaching on a daily basis. So that's it, man. Keep shooting, episode 19. We're almost at 20. Brandon gave me some crazy stat saying that he said 1 out of 18 million podcasts only reach 20 episodes. So we're almost at 20. That wasn't the stat, but it was something like that. So we're almost at 20. So just a real quick thing. Next 2 guests. I'm having 2 guests on the next podcast. I believe next week's podcast guest is going to be Bobby White with a Y, W-H-Y, Bobby White. That's how I pronounce it. Super excited to have him on. And then the next guest after that confirmed is Corey Kispert, the one of the best shooters in the country from Gonzaga, probably going to be a lottery pick in this draft. And so we'll get to hear his perspective on kind of going through the stuff that we talk about here. And it's been cool. I've had a few assistants at Gonzaga reach out to me and say that they've been using the stuff with their players at Gonzaga, which is really cool, man. Number 1 team in the country, and they've been using the stuff. So that is it, man. Signing out. I appreciate you guys. Comment, like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it. I appreciate you. And as always, keep shooting.